sixth grade, we're going to go over value for our element of art this week. Value refers to lightness and darkness of a color. What we're going to do is we're going to create a highly realistic eye just using graphite pencil. So if you can see, I have a bunch of different pencils. If you just have a regular pencil, and this that's totally fine. That's what I'm going to be using, but I do know some of you told me that you actually have artist drawing pencils. So I quickly wanted to go over those if you wanted to give those a try. So artist pencils are labeled with different numbers and letters. So if you see a number with the letter H, typically these are going to be pretty light sketching pencils. The lead's pretty hard, so when I go to shade, you can see that it's pretty light. So this is used for the beginning of your drawing when you're just starting to sketch. Now, for a slightly darker pencil, you can get a pencil that has an H and a B. So an HB pencil is starting to get a little darker. Because the H is still there, it's still a little bit light, but the B pencil is usually when you start getting a little darker. So this one right next to it, you can see, is definitely darker. Now, when you go to the next pencil, you can have a 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B. I think you can even have like an 8B. So these are darker pencils. The higher the number, the darker the pencil. So this is a 3B. This is going to be definitely darker than the HB. And then the last pencil I have here is a 5B, which is even darker. So you can see I easily created a value scale just using the different types of pencils. So if you have these, you can start with the lighter sketch, and as you start adding value, you can switch pencils to get darker. Now, if you don't have access to that type of those type of pencils, that's okay, because I'm going to show you most of this drawing using this pencil. So you can do the same exact thing as the drawing pencils, just by adding pressure to your pencil. So I can also create a value scale using this just by coloring darker. So you kind of get the same effect. So that's what I'm going to be drawing with today. Now, it's good to have access to a pencil. Some of you might have a blender, which is really great because it does a great job blending and making everything smooth. Or if you don't have that, you can use a tissue or even your finger to blend, and it does the same thing. This is just easier to control, so you can be more clean with your blending. With a tissue, it kind of like smudges it all over the place, so you have to be careful. But those are the tools we're going to be using today. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to demo how to create a realistic eye using shading techniques. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over so we can get started. So I believe we went over drawing a self-portrait, and I quickly showed you how to draw an eye. Today's eye is going to be different because we're going to take a lot of time and focus on the detail. So it's going to start a little strangely. So you're going to start in the center of your paper drawing a large circle. So our eye shape is created by the skin around the eyeball, and the eyeball is actually a sphere. So we're going to start with that, and I'm just sketching lightly with my pencil. We are eventually going to erase a lot of these lines. So the next step is I'm going to draw a circle on the inside. This will eventually become the iris, the colored part of the eye. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to draw the pupil in the center, which is the smallest part, but that is going to be the dark part of the eye. So, looks a little strange right now, but we're going to fix that. The next step we're going to do is we're going to actually create the shape of the eye. So, I'm going to kind of draw like, it's almost like a rainbow line, but it's flattened at the top. And I'm making sure that I'm definitely cutting off some of that iris circle, so the second circle. And you can see all up here will eventually be erased too. So I'm going to start like that. And then I'm going to swoop the bottom part around, but I'm going to make sure I'm also touching the bottom part of this circle. Just going to smooth out my lines. Okay. So that is the start of my eye. I'm actually going to take my eraser now and erase all these lines that I don't need. So it's helpful when you're doing this part to sketch kind of lightly so it's easier to erase the lines. Okay, there is the start to my eye. So I'm going to make sure we still have a hint at the sphere, the circle. Over here, I'm just rounding it a little bit more, and I'm actually going to extend this a little for the tear duct. Okay. All right, so we have the start of our eye. The next step I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with the pupil. So for this, I'm actually going to draw 2 squares, and those are going to be the highlight. And then I'm going to go in and color this pretty dark. This is going to be the darkest part of the eye. Okay, then I'm going to go over here and darken this, make this line a little bit darker. Okay, so I'm going to lightly sketch a thin ring around the pupil. And then I'm going to start shading out just a little bit. So I'm leaving a little bit of a white space in between, and I'm turning my paper as I shade it this way. Okay, I'm actually going to take my finger and I'm just going to blend that a little bit. Okay, so we have the start of our eye. Now, what I want you to do is we're going to start at this line around, and you're going to change the pressure. So I'm going to press a little hard here and then fade light as I get closer to the inside of the eye. You can hear my dogs barking in the background. All right. Okay. All right, I'm gonna blend this in with my finger. It should get a little smudgy. We're gonna have to clean it up just a little bit with our pencil afterwards. Okay, all right, not our pencil, our eraser. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go in with my eraser. I'm gonna pull out just a little bit here where we left that little light ring. And then I'm going to not quite erase like where the dark line is, but slightly inside, just a little. And then I'm gonna blend over a little bit. Okay, now this top part here is going to be pretty dark because the eyelid and the eyelashes are going to cast a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go in at the top and shade downwards. I'm actually going to go over where I had that white part here, just at the top. I'm going to fade it lightly out. I'm just going over the top part to make it pretty dark, and then fade it out. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over and draw lines coming out of the eye. So I'm starting where the dark pupil is and pulling the lines out. And I'm just going to go back and shade a little more. And then I'm going to re-emphasize over here this little part. Okay, so then I'm just going to lighten up with my eraser because we've been doing a lot of blending and it sometimes smudges it a little. And then I'm going to put a pretty bright highlight here where I'm erasing. And a little over here. Okay, so I'm just about done with this part. All right, and that is going to be my iris. Next, we're going to move on to the eyeball part, the white part of the eye, and we're just going to lightly shade. We're going to hint that it's more of a sphere, so I'm just going to shade the sides just a little bit, blend it in. I'm going to blend in over here and up at the top. Now it is getting pretty gray, so I'm going to go back in with my eraser and erase those parts. Okay. Gonna make the bottom lid. And I'm going to put a line right next to it. This is where the bottom eyelashes are going to come out. Okay, so I'm going to take care of this tear duct. I'm just going to shade it lightly like that. I just kind of drew a line dividing it a little, and it's going to be a lot grayer than the white of the eye. Okay, and then let's go back the top of the eye. Okay, and I'm going to start adding in the eyelid. So I'm just going to sketch above and kind of follow the shape of the eye. Okay. Make this line a little darker. And then I'm going to shade the crease just a little bit. So you're just going to shade all the way across the top of the eyelid. Okay, and then I'm going to shade a little bit the top of the eye, and then I'm going to blend. So if you have a blender, this is when it comes in handy too, because you can get much more controlled shading. Now if you're blending and this part gets a little dark, you can always go in with your eraser and remove if it gets a little dark. All right, I'm just going to clean up the edges just a little bit. Now my next step is to shade slightly below the bottom lid, not too much. And I'm going to blend it in with my finger. And then I'm going to use my eraser to clean up. I want to get in there a little bit too. Okay. So we are doing good. Make that a little bit darker. You can see, like, as I work on the eye, I kind of just jump around. As I shade one thing, I realize another part needs to be slightly darker, slightly lighter. And I am actually going to make this part of the eye a little bit darker. Blend it with my finger. Okay. Then again, take my eraser, pull out some of the graphite. Okay, so next I'm going to add the eyelashes for the last step. So I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to start here, and I'm making a quick little motion as I pull up. Now, as I get closer to the center, they're going to start going straight, and then I'm going to curve it in the other direction. But I'm going to make these a little bit smaller. Okay, so I'm actually going to go over again. And I'm going to try to make them go a little bit in different directions so they just look a little bit more natural, the eyelashes. And just a little bit smaller. All right, now I'm going to do the bottom eyelashes, but less is more. So I'm just going to hint at a couple. I'm actually going to leave some spaces in between. Get smaller over here. Okay, so there is my realistic eye with value. I'm looking forward to see all your different types of eyes. Bye.